Gabriel Garcia Marquez is a famous award-winning Latin American author who's one of the most famous writers in history, best known for his work with magical realism. In essence, magical realism is a realistic setting with magical elements, which was the root of all of Marquez's work. Some of his most well-known novels include 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera, which was not only a notable success in Latin America, but also globally. Marquez is able to demonstrate a Marxist critical lens as he highlights the exploitation of the proletariat in a corrupt system that alienates them. Marquez portrays the reality of class structures in a capitalist society through his short stories including A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, Balthazar's Marvelous Afternoon, and Lacaman the Good Vendor of Miracles. According to Karl Marx's influential theory on capitalism and exploitation, in a capitalist system, workers are exploited in the sense that they are forced to sell their labor power to capitalists for less than the full market value of the products they produce. Through a Marxist lens, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's short stories depict the ruling class as exploitative of the laboring class, alienating them and criticizing capitalism. Gabriel Garcia Marquez's A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings depicts the laboring class to be alienated from the product and profit of their labor, also criticizing capitalism as an exploitative model. It narrates the story of Pelayo and his wife Elisenda, who encounter an elderly man with wings in their yard after hunting crabs in a thunderstorm. As a result, they then decide to take advantage of him and treat him as property for their own benefit. At the beginning, Elisenda and Pelayo cage an old man with large wings found behind in their courtyard. They presumed he was an angel. The news of the captive angel spread so quickly that the courtyard had the bustle of a marketplace in only a few hours. Elisenda then decides to fence in the yard and charge 5 cents admission to see the angel. However, the angel was the only one who took no part in his own act. To begin, the lexical choice of admission and charging 5 cents connotes purchasing tickets for an entertainment event, and the word bustle connotes activity and masses, underscoring the large crowd of people waiting to see the angel, which is emphasized more by the word marketplace. That implies that he's being commercialized. This implies and indirectly characterizes the angel to be a circus animal, caged and waiting for an audience. Moreover, his alienation is emphasized through the use of the terms fencing, which denotes barriers, and captive angel, which further alienated him from other people. Additionally, by including that the angel took no part in his own act, Elisenda, a member of the bourgeoisie, is therefore depicted as greedy, exploiting the poor angel, a member of the proletariat, in order to profit from him. Subsequently, the tone towards the angel is inhumane and the mood is oppressive. Hence, the story could be read as a microcosm of the challenges faced by the working class when striving for upwards mobility. Resultantly, once Pelayo and Elisenda met the angel, they took advantage of him and treated him as property for their own benefit. This situation also perfectly demonstrates the capitalist society as the now bourgeoisie Pelayo and Elisenda made their way up through the exploitation of the angel who owned no means of production. The angel is demonstrated to be alienated from the profit as he gains none of the money made by Pelayo and Elisenda, regardless of the fact that he does all the work. Generally, alienation is a theoretical concept developed by Karl Marx that describes the isolating, dehumanizing, and disenchanting effects of working within a capitalist system of production. This is because the product earns a profit for the capitalist and not the worker through the wage-labor agreement. Therefore, the reality of a capitalist society where people gain mobility through the exploitation of others is accurately depicted and criticized through Marquez's short story. Another one of Marquez's works that criticizes the ways in which the bourgeoisie exploits the labor of the working class in a story does so through the alienation and exploitation of Balthazar, the protagonist. In Balthazar's Marvelous Afternoon, Balthazar the carpenter puts his blood, sweat, and tears into a custom-made birdcage for Mr. Jose Montiel's son, Pepe. Lots of people visit to gaze at the extraordinary cage, and one doctor offers a large amount of money to purchase it. However, Balthazar rejects the offer, cleans himself up, and heads to the wealthy Montiel's house to give it to him. Jose rejects the cage, and yet Balthazar strongly insists, claiming that it was made expressly as a gift. Go read the story to know what happens after that. It's like really good. Anyway, while Balthazar was showing the cage to the neighbors, his girlfriend was annoyed because her husband had neglected the work of his carpenter shop to devote himself entirely to the cage, and for 2 weeks had slept poorly, turning over and muttering incoherencies, and he hadn't even thought of shaving. For starters, the lexical choice of neglected highlights the devotion of the proletariat and exploitation of themselves for the bourgeoisie in the capitalist system. Hence, Balthazar is characterized as a modern wage laborer, reduced to selling his labor power in order for validation. This is further demonstrated as he sacrifices money as well as his indifference to the wealthy to give the cage to Jose Montiel's son. His prioritizing of Jose Montiel over the doctor indicates that he's actually obedient and respectful to the wealthy, but the doctor does offer more money than Montiel, and the prestige of his position also takes away from this theory. Balthazar initially donates his cage to Jose's hysterical son in order to make the boy happy and avoid disappointing him. But when he reaches the pool hall and lies about the transaction price, it's clear that even the good intentions of Balthazar are subject to the undermining effects of capitalism. Moving on, it's important to note the symbolic meaning of the bird cages. They symbolize materialism due to their demand on Balthazar's time, their purpose of captivating life, and their attractiveness to the wealthy. Furthermore, the lack of sleep or rest he receives, as well as profit, demonstrates Balthazar's exploitation, or the idea that workers in a capitalist society are exploited insofar as they're forced to sell their labor power to capitalists for less than the full value of the commodities they produce with their labor. Speaking of lack of sleep, that leads us to today's sponsor, Thomas Hopkins. Thomas Hopkins is our English teacher. With the Hopkins effect, you will not only be more intelligent, but also more miserable. Thanks for being the most impactful and eye-opening teacher we've ever had. Get 10% off of his services today, linked down below, with the code SLAY10. Again, that's SLAY10, SLA10. Back to what I was saying. As a result, Balthazar appears to be alienated from the product because it's designed and directed by others, and because it earns a profit for the capitalist and not the worker through the wage labor agreement, once again. All in all, the undermining effects of a capitalist society where the proletariat is exploited and alienated from their labor is depicted and criticized. Moreover, Marquez highlights the socioeconomic structures of a capitalist society in his short story Blackaman the Good Vendor of Miracles, as it depicts the alienation and exploitation of the lower class. Blackaman the Bad was a traveling shaman who came to the port town where Blackaman the Good lived. After his show, Blackaman the Bad decided he wanted to take the Good as an apprentice for his stupid look, and he acquired the boy from his father. The two traveled together, shamming people, until they were forced to go on the run. It was at this time that the Bad started torturing the Good. That same night, he spoke to his father for 1 real and 2 cuartillos and a deck of cards that foretold adultery. He bought Blackaman the Good forever. Blackaman the Bad tries to make use out of the Good, and after he loses hope, he decides to take him to his father and get his money back. That does not work, so he mentally and physically tortures him in every way possible. I'd love to continue storytelling, but it's beside the point. But you should go check it out, actually. Firstly, as Blackaman the Good is bought and then returned to get his money back and then used as one to test inventions on, he lacks his own means of production and exchanges his labor for essentially being alive. Blackaman the Bad is very much dehumanized, and as a result of capitalist ideology, he's reduced to a subhuman state. He doesn't even acknowledge the Good's feelings or considers giving him a say in whether he should be bought or not. Blackaman the Good is therefore intensely exploited and also alienated from his true inner self, desires, and the pursuit of happiness by the demands placed on him by the socioeconomic structure and by his conversion into an object by the capitalist mode of production, which views and treats him not as human subjects but as replaceable elements of a system of production. This is reflective of how the bourgeoisie treat the poor like they're expendable and invaluable, only interacting with them when they benefit from doing so. Pause. You should still read the story, but I want to talk about the end of it. So, during this torture, Blackaman the Good accidentally discovers his powers of healing when he resurrects a rabbit. And from then on, life was like great for him, and he traveled the world providing miracle cures and making money. And when the two met again, Blackaman the Bad dies, and as repayment for the torture he suffered, the Good doesn't give him the privilege of dying, preferring instead to continue resurrecting him as long as he himself lives. In other words, Blackaman the Good becomes bougie after being exploited and gaining class consciousness, aka resurrecting the rabbit, and then profits off of the suffering that he used to be a victim of. That's deep, and why Gabriel Garcia Marquez was like asking for us to apply a Marxist lens to his writing. In conclusion, Marquez criticizes how a capitalist society exploits and alienates the lower class through his 3 short stories. In a capitalist society, the lower classes are exploited by the bourgeoisie and are alienated from the products of their labor. This economic structure has proven to be extremely problematic, as it can be dehumanizing, oppressive, and invalidating to the value and purpose of the proletariat. In addition, these capitalist structures can harm people, as with the old man with enormous wings, Balthazar, and both Blackamans, in fact. Unpopular opinion, Blackaman the Good is worse than Blackaman the Bad. Moving on. As a result of these storylines in Marquez's short stories, he's able to criticize the several ways in which a capitalist society can exploit and therefore alienate the proletariat by means of production. It's important to acknowledge the similarities between Marquez's stories and today's capitalist society. By doing so and educating ourselves, we are on the road to utopia. Thanks for watching!